My mom forgot the speakerphone was on, and what she said about me made me cry. Emily Johnson felt her world crumble when she heard those words coming from her phone. The call had been made by mistake, the speakerphone was activated, and her mother didn't know she could hear every poisonous word she was saying about her to the neighbor. "She's such a disappointment, Betty," said the voice of Karen Johnson, her mother, on the other end of the line. At 25, Emily still hasn't gotten a decent job. She spends all day in that room fiddling with the computer and those internet things that don't make any money. Emily held the phone with trembling hands, sitting on the bed in her small room at the family home in Naperville, a suburb of Chicago. Tears began streaming down her face as she listened to her own mother tear apart all her dreams and efforts. "And the worst part is she still thinks she'll get somewhere with this internet video business," Karen continued, unaware she was being heard. "I've already told my husband she needs to stop this fantasy and find a real job." The young woman pressed the phone to her ear, even though every word felt like a stab to the chest. For 2 years, she had been trying to build a career as a digital content creator, making videos about healthy cooking and home organization. It was work she loved, even if it hadn't yet brought the financial return she hoped for. "Sometimes, I think I failed in raising her, you know." Karen's voice remained merciless. Her sister Jessica already has a business degree, a steady job, a fiancé, while Emily lives in her own little world. Emily squeezed her eyes shut, trying to hold back the tears that were growing stronger. Jessica had always been the perfect daughter in their mother's eyes. 2 years younger, she had already achieved everything their parents considered signs of success in life. "I don't know what to do with her anymore, Betty. I've tried talking, arguing, even threatening to cut the internet, but she just doesn't understand she needs to grow up and take on adult responsibilities." What hurt the most wasn't just the words but the disdain in her mother's voice. Emily had always known her mother didn't approve of her career choices, but she never imagined the disappointment ran so deep. "And the boyfriend?" Betty's voice asked from the other side. "What boyfriend?" Karen let out a bitter laugh. "She barely leaves the house. How's she going to meet someone? And even if she did, what man would want a woman with no financial stability?" Emily abruptly ended the call, tossing the phone onto the bed as if it were on fire. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, and she felt like the air was disappearing in the tiny room she shared with her sister. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now, continuing, the walls of the room seemed to close in around her. Emily looked around at her makeshift recording setup, a simple camera on a tripod, a white cloth pinned to the wall as a backdrop, and a small counter where she prepared recipes for her videos. Everything that just minutes ago had represented her dreams and ambitions now seemed pathetic in her eyes. Maybe her mother was right. Maybe she really was a lost dreamer, unable to face reality. She got up from the bed and walked to the window, watching the street below. Other people her age hurried by, probably heading to or from their traditional jobs. Was she really living in a fantasy? The sound of footsteps in the hallway made her quickly wipe away her tears. Karen was coming up the stairs, likely to call her down for dinner. Emily took a deep breath, trying to compose herself before her mother reached the bedroom. "Emily," the familiar voice echoed from the other side of the door. "Come down for dinner, sweetheart." "I'll be right there, Mom," Emily replied, forcing her voice to sound normal. She looked at herself in the small mirror hanging on the wall. Her eyes were red and swollen, making it obvious she had been crying. Quickly, she splashed cold water on her face and tried to pull herself together. She walked downstairs toward the dining room, where the whole family was already gathered. Her father, Robert Johnson, 58 years old, was a simple man who worked as a technician for a phone company. Jessica, her younger sister, was chatting excitedly about her day at the office, where she worked as an administrative assistant. "So, Emily," Robert asked as she sat at the table, "how was your day? Did you record any new videos?" Before she could answer, Karen interrupted. "Robert, don't encourage her fantasies. Emily needs to focus on finding a real job." Emily felt her stomach twist. Her mother spoke exactly as she had on the phone with the neighbor earlier, but now directly to her, though with a slightly less aggressive tone. "Mom, I am Working, Emily said, trying to stay calm. My videos are starting to get more views, and I've even gotten a few partnership offers. Partnerships? Karen let out an impatient sigh. Emily, you need to stop living in this make-believe world. We need to have a serious talk about your future. Jessica glanced at her sister with an expression that seemed to mix pity and superiority. She had always been the well-behaved daughter, the one who followed the traditional path, and never gave their parents any reason to worry. It's just hard to understand, Emily, Jessica said, cutting a piece of chicken. All our friends our age are already settled in life. People ask what you do, and we don't even know how to explain it. Robert tried to ease the tension. Come on, let's just have a peaceful dinner. Emily's trying, and that's what matters. Trying? Karen raised her voice. Robert, she's 25. She's not a child anymore, just trying things. It's time to be practical. Emily felt the words she'd heard earlier echoing in her mind. Her mother really did see her as a failure, a disappointment. The dinner in front of her seemed to have lost all its flavor. I'll look for a job, Emily murmured, surprising everyone at the table. Karen stopped eating and looked at her daughter carefully. Really? You'll stop with these videos? Emily hesitated. Those recordings were more than just work to her. They were a way to express herself, to share the knowledge she'd gained, to build something of her own. But the pain of disappointing her family so much was unbearable. I'll think about it. The rest of dinner passed in heavy silence. Emily ate mechanically, lost in thought about what she'd heard. Was she really just an irresponsible dreamer? Was she being unfair to her parents, who supported her while she chased her dreams? After dinner, she went back to her room and turned on her computer. Her latest post had gotten 230 views and several positive comments. One follower had written, "Emily, your videos have helped me so much with organizing my home. Thank you for sharing these tips." She stared at that comment for several minutes. Her recordings really were helping people, even if on a small scale. But was that enough? Was it worth continuing to disappoint her family? Emily opened job search sites and began scrolling through the available listings. Most required experience she didn't have, or offered low salaries for positions that didn't interest her at all. She was about to close the computer when she got a message on the channel where she posted her videos. It was from a woman named Sarah Miller, who said she had an interesting proposal to make. "Hello, Emily. I'm a nutritionist and have been following your videos on healthy eating. I'd love to talk to you about a possible partnership. Would you be interested?" Emily's heart raced. Partnerships were exactly what she needed to start monetizing her work more consistently. But then her mother's words came back to her. Fantasies, head in the clouds, disappointment. She typed and deleted several responses, unsure of what to do. Finally, she settled on a neutral reply. "Hello, Sarah. I appreciate your interest. Right now I'm re-evaluating my projects, but as soon as I define my next steps, I'll get in touch." After sending the message, Emily lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling. The room was silent except for the distant sound of the TV in the living room. Jessica hadn't come upstairs yet. She was probably talking to her fiancé on the phone as she did every night. Emily thought about how different things might be if she had taken a more traditional path. Maybe she'd have graduated with a degree she didn't care about, working in an office, but with her family's approval. Maybe she'd already have a steady boyfriend her parents liked, but the truth was, she couldn't picture herself in a conventional job. The idea of spending 8 hours a day in a corporate environment, doing repetitive tasks, made her anxious. Her videos, on the other hand, were her passion. Every recording was carefully planned, every edit made with dedication. The next morning, Emily woke up determined to have an honest talk with her mother. She went downstairs to the kitchen, where Karen was already preparing breakfast for the family. "Mom, can we talk?" Emily asked, sitting at the table. Karen turned around, surprised by her daughter's serious tone. "Of course, honey. What's wrong?" Emily took a deep breath, trying to find the right words. "I know you don't approve of my work with the videos, but I want you to understand how important this is to me." Karen sighed and sat across from her daughter. Emily, it's not that I don't approve, I'm just worried about you, hurried. You can't live on dreams forever. But I'm not just dreaming, Mom. I'm working every day, studying, putting in the effort. And where's the money from this work? Karen interrupted. Emily, you're already 25. Other girls, your age, are building their lives, saving money, thinking about marriage. Emily felt tears welling up again. Her mother's words echoed what she'd heard on the call. Do you really think I'm a disappointment? Karen seemed genuinely surprised by the question. Disappointment? Emily, why would you say that? Because I know you wish I were more like Jessica. Karen fell silent for a moment, studying her daughter's face. There was something in Emily's expression that suggested this conversation wasn't just about general frustrations. Emily, did you hear something? Karen asked, her tone softer. Emily hesitated. Part of her wanted to confront her mother directly about what she'd overheard, but another part feared it would only make things worse. I just feel like I'll never make you proud of me. Honey, that's not true, Karen said, reaching out to touch Emily's hand. I worry because I love you. I just want to see you settled in life. But to Emily, those words rang hollow after what she'd heard. Her mother was being kind now, but she knew Karen's real opinion of her. Robert walked into the kitchen then, interrupting the conversation. Good morning, girls. Everything okay here? Everything's fine, Dad, Emily said, forcing a smile. I'm going upstairs to fix up my resume. Karen watched her daughter climb the stairs, sensing something different in her demeanor. But Robert was already rushing off to avoid being late for work, and the moment for a deeper conversation slipped away. In her room, Emily began updating her resume in earnest. She listed her skills in video editing, social media, and communication, trying to frame them as qualifications that might appeal to traditional employers. As she typed, new notifications popped up on her videos, people commenting, asking questions, thanking her for the tips. Each notification felt like a reminder of what she'd be leaving behind. Around noon, Jessica came home for lunch. She worked nearby and always tried to eat with the family when possible. Hey, Emily, Jessica said, stepping into the room. Mom told me you two talked this morning. We did, Emily replied without looking up from her computer. You're really going to look for a job? Emily stopped typing and glanced at her sister. Jessica stood in the doorway, still wearing her office uniform, a white blouse and black skirt, her hair pulled into a bun. Why does everyone keep pressuring me so much? Emily asked, a hint of irritation in her voice. It's not pressure, Emily. We're just worried. Don't you think it's strange that all your old school friends are already at a different stage in life? Emily thought about her former classmates. Some were married, others had stable jobs, but she also knew people who were unhappy at work, stuck in unfulfilling relationships. What if I'm happy my own way? She asked. Happiness doesn't pay the bills, Jessica replied, echoing a phrase they'd heard from their mother countless times. After lunch, Emily decided to leave the house to clear her head. She walked to the nearby park, a place she often went when she needed to think. Sitting on a bench under the shade of a tree, she watched people passing by, families with children, elderly folks out for a walk, young people playing sports. Everyone seemed to have found their place in the world, except her. Her phone rang, an unknown number. Hello? Hi, Emily. It's Sarah Miller. Did you get my message yesterday? Emily hesitated. The nutritionist had somehow gotten her number. I did, but like I said, I'm reevaluating my projects. I understand, but could we talk in person? I have a proposal that might really interest you. I can explain better face to face. Curiosity got the better of Emily. What kind of proposal? I'd rather explain in person. How about tomorrow? We can meet somewhere near you. Emily glanced around the park, torn. This could be a real opportunity to make her work financially viable, or it could just be another conversation leading nowhere. All right, she finally said. Tomorrow at 2 at Woodfield Mall in the food court. Perfect, I'll be wearing a blue blouse and carrying a folder. See you then. Emily hung up with mixed feelings. Part of her was excited about the possibility, but another part reminded her of her mother's words about fantasies and having her head in the clouds. When she got home, the family was gathered in the living room watching TV. Karen was crocheting, Robert was reading the newspaper, and Jessica was scrolling through her phone. "Emily, where were you?" Karen asked without looking up from her handiwork. "I went for a walk in the park." "Find any interesting job listings online?" Robert asked. "Daisy, I'm considering a few options," Emily replied, not mentioning her scheduled meeting with Sarah. She spent the rest of the afternoon divided between responding to messages about her videos and updating her resume. It was as if she were living two parallel lives, one where she was a growing content creator, and another where she was just another unemployed young woman looking for work. During dinner, Karen brought up some news. "Emily, I talked to Betty today. She said the office where her son-in-law works is hiring receptionists. Should I ask about the requirements?" Emily nearly choked on her food. Betty was exactly the neighbor her mother had talked about on the phone. The irony of the situation was almost surreal. Let me look into other options first, Mom." "Emily, you can't afford to be too picky. Receptionist work is honest and could be a start," Karen said. "Daisy, your mother's right," Robert agreed. "Sometimes you have to start from the bottom to build a career." Emily nodded along, but inside she felt a tightness in her chest. The idea of working as a receptionist, sticking to rigid schedules and doing tasks that didn't motivate her at all, sounded like a nightmare. "And you should also start going out more, meeting people," Jessica added. "You can't just stay at home all the time." "That's true," Karen said. "Jennifer's daughter, who's your age, just got engaged. The young man is an accountant, has a promising future." Emily felt like she was being judged from every angle. She didn't have a traditional job, didn't have a boyfriend, didn't fit the expected mold for a 25-year-old woman. She finished dinner quickly and went up to her room, claiming a headache. In truth, she needed to be alone to process all the conflicting emotions she was feeling. Sitting on her bed, Emily opened her channel and reviewed the videos she had posted. Over the past few months, there were 43 in total, each carefully planned and executed. The comments were always positive, and she noticed some people appeared regularly, as if following her work closely. One comment in particular caught her attention. "Emily, your videos saved me when I was going through a tough time. I managed to reorganize my home and my life by following your tips. You have no idea how much it helped me." She stared at that comment for several minutes. There were people who genuinely benefited from her work. Shouldn't that count as something valuable? She began responding to recent comments, something she always did with care. Every person who interacted with her videos mattered to her, and she made sure to reply to each one. As she typed, she thought about her meeting the next day with Sarah. Maybe it would be a chance to prove to her family that her work could actually generate income. Or maybe it would just be another disappointment. The next morning, Emily woke up with a mix of anxiety and anticipation. She chose an outfit more formal than usual, a white blouse and dark jeans, as if she were going to a job interview. During breakfast, she almost told her family about the meeting but decided against it. If it went wrong, it would just be more proof that she was living in a fantasy world. "I'm going out to take care of some things," she said after finishing her meal. "What things?" Karen asked. "Oh, I'm dropping off some resumes," Emily lied. "Great," Robert said, smiling. "That's the way to do it, sweetheart. You've got to put in the effort." Emily left the house with a weight on her conscience for lying, but also with a glimmer of hope about what she might discover at the meeting. She arrived at the mall 15 minutes early and watched the crowd in the food court. Several people were having lunch, chatting, some working on laptops. Exactly at 2 o'clock, a woman around 40 years old, wearing a blue blouse and carrying a briefcase, approached. "Emily, I'm Sarah Miller. Nice to meet you," said Emily, standing up to greet her. Sarah was a friendly woman with brown hair, tied in a ponytail and a warm smile. She seemed professional yet approachable. "First, I want to say I really admire your work," Sarah began after they sat down. "Your videos on healthy eating are very well researched." "Thank you," said Emily, feeling a bit more confident. "I've been a nutritionist for 15 years and work in food education. Lately, I've realized I need to expand how I reach people, and online videos are perfect for that." Emily listened carefully, trying not to get carried away by high expectations. "My proposal is a partnership," Sarah continued. "I'd develop the technical content, and you'd handle video production and presentation. We could split the profits. 50-50. Emily's heart raced. This seemed exactly what she needed to turn her work into a profession. What kind of profits? She asked, keeping her tone professional. Initially, I thought we could create a dedicated channel for the project, with potential earnings from ads and partnerships with healthy food brands. We could also develop paid online courses. Sarah opened her briefcase and showed some spreadsheets with projections and a rough business plan. Of course, at first, it'd be more of a time investment than money, she explained. But I believe in 6 months we could already have a decent income. Emily looked at the papers, trying to process everything. It seemed like a real opportunity, but also meant more financial uncertainty in the short term. It's an interesting proposal, Emily said, but I need time to think it over. Of course, I completely understand. How about I give you a week to decide? If you agree, we could start next Monday. They talked for a few more minutes about technical details and exchanged contacts. Sarah seemed genuinely interested in working with Emily, which was both exciting and scary. On her way home, Emily wondered how to present this proposal to her family. Would they see it as another fantasy or a legitimate business opportunity? When she got home, Karen was in the living room folding laundry. "So, honey, how did the job applications go?" Emily hesitated. She could keep lying or take the chance to talk about the meeting. "Actually, Mom, I had a work meeting." Karen stopped folding and looked at her daughter. "A work meeting? What kind of meeting?" "A nutritionist wants to partner with me to create content about healthy eating." Karen's face took on an expression Emily knew well, a mix of skepticism and disappointment. "Emily, how many times are we going to have this conversation? You can't keep believing strangers' promises." "But Mom, she's a serious professional. She brought a business plan." "A business plan?" Karen let out a humorless laugh. "Emily, you didn't even finish college. How are you going to run a business?" The mention of her unfinished degree felt like a punch to the gut. Emily had dropped out of advertising school in her 3rd year when she realized it wasn't what she wanted. Back then, the family had been furious. "Mom, this is different. It's an area I know. You know." "Emily, you barely know how to cook properly. How are you going to teach others about food?" "I study, Mom. I read, research, educate myself. Studying online isn't the same as getting a proper education," Karen retorted. Emily felt the tears welling up in her eyes once more. Yet again, her mother was belittling her efforts and knowledge. "Please, sweetheart," Karen said, softening her tone. "Put these fantasies aside and focus on finding a real job. You're not a child anymore. You can't just play at working." Emily went upstairs without responding. She threw herself onto the bed and began to cry, replaying the words she'd heard on the phone. Such a disappointment. Always has her head in. The cloud needs to grow up. Maybe her mother was right. Maybe she really was just an immature dreamer, incapable of facing reality. Sarah's offer, which had seemed so promising just minutes ago, now felt like another fantasy. Emily picked up her phone and started typing. A message to Sarah. "Hi Sarah, I really appreciate the offer, but after thinking it over, I don't think now is the right time for me." She wrote and deleted the message several times, unable to make a final decision. Part of her desperately wanted to believe it could work, but another part couldn't bear disappointing her family again. Robert came home from work and went upstairs to talk to her. "Emily, your mom told me about the meeting today. Want to talk?" Emily wiped her tears and let her father into the room. Robert had always been more understanding than Karen, though he shared her concerns. "Dad, what do you think?" "So about my videos?" Emily asked, looking him straight in the eyes. Robert took a moment before answering. "Emily, I see how dedicated you are, how much you love what you do, but I also understand your mom's worries about financial stability. But do you think it's a waste of time?" "I don't think it's a waste, sweetheart, but maybe it could be a hobby while you have a main job. A hobby." That was how even her father, the most understanding person in the family, saw her work. Emily felt like she was fighting the whole world alone. What if this partnership works out? What if I can actually make money from it? "Emily, if it works, we'll be thrilled. But what if it doesn't? You've already spent 2 years betting on this." Robert sat on the edge of the bed. "Sweetheart, I just want to see you secure in life. Your mom and I won't be around forever, and we want to know you can support yourself." Those words cut deep. Emily had never considered that her parents might be worrying about their own future, about the possibility of her not being able to make it on her own. "Dad, I'll make it. I just need a little more time." "How much time, Emily? Another year, 2 years? What if it doesn't work?" Emily had no answer. Truthfully, she was afraid it might not work too. What if she really was deluding herself? What if she never made enough money from her work? After Robert left the room, Emily sat alone with her thoughts. She looked at her recording equipment and imagined taking it all apart, packing up the camera, removing the fabric from the wall. In a way, it would be a relief. No more constant pressure from her family, no more justifying her choices. She could find an ordinary job like everyone expected and live a simple, predictable life. But the thought of giving up also devastated her. Those videos were her way of expressing herself, sharing knowledge, connecting with people. They were her professional identity. Emily picked up her phone again and reread the message she'd written to Sarah. Her hands trembled as she debated whether to send it. Then a new notification popped up. Someone had commented on her latest video. "Emily, you inspired me to start eating healthier. I've already lost 3 pounds following your tips. Keep up this wonderful work." She stared at the comment, feeling a mix of emotions. There were people who truly benefited from her work. Shouldn't that count for something? Emily deleted the message she had written for Sarah and typed another. "Hi, Sarah. I'm still reviewing the proposal. Could you give me a few more days to decide?" The reply came quickly. "Of course, Emily, I understand it's an important decision. Let me know if you have any questions." Emily put her phone away and lay down, staring at the ceiling. She needed to make a decision, but it felt like she was at an impossible crossroads. On one side, the security and approval of her family. On the other, her dreams and passions. During dinner, the family chatted about everyday matters, but Emily barely participated. She was lost in thoughts about her future when Jessica made a remark that snapped her back to reality. Mom Ashley from the office asked if Emily might be interested in working at the company where her boyfriend is employed. "It's customer service, but it pays well." "Really?" Karen perked up. "Emily, what a great opportunity." All eyes turned to Emily, who felt pressured to respond. What kind of company is it?" "It's a health insurance company," Jessica explained. "The job involves answering customer calls, clarifying questions about procedures, that sort of thing." Emily tried to picture herself spending 8 hours a day fielding complaints from unhappy customers about their health plans. The idea didn't excite her at all. "How much does it pay?" Robert asked. $2,500 plus benefits, Jessica replied. "Emily," Karen exclaimed, "that's a great starting salary." Emily knew it really was good money. It would be more than enough to start contributing to household expenses, and maybe even move out someday. "I need to think about it," she said. "Think?" Karen sounded incredulous. "Emily, this is a real opportunity. You can't keep letting chances like this slip away." "Mum, I just said I need to think. I didn't say I'd refuse." "It's just that you always make excuses when a real opportunity comes up," Jessica said. "Sometimes it seems like you don't even want to work." The accusation stung deeply. Emily wasn't lazy. She worked on her videos every day, even if she wasn't making money from it. But to her family, that didn't count as real work. "I do work," Emily said, her voice firmer. "Real work, Emily," Karen insisted, "with a contract, set hours, responsibilities." Emily wanted to shout that her work had responsibilities, that people relied on her content, that she took it seriously. But she knew it would be pointless. "I'll think about the job," she finally said, just to end the conversation. After dinner, Emily went upstairs and turned on her computer. She had planned to film a new video that night, but she couldn't focus. Instead, she started researching call center jobs, trying to mentally prepare herself for the possibility. The stories she found weren't encouraging: stressful environments, aggressive quotas, difficult customers. But maybe that was what adulthood really meant: making sacrifices, accepting jobs that didn't fulfill you in exchange for financial stability. Emily was about to shut down her computer when she got another message from Sarah. Emily, I forgot to mention earlier, but I looked more into your work and saw you have a highly engaged audience. That's rare and valuable. I hope we can work together. The message arrived just as Emily was feeling completely undervalued. Someone recognized the value of her work, saw potential in what she was doing. She replied, "Thank you, Sarah. Your message came at an important time. I'm still deciding, but I really appreciate the recognition." Emily spent the rest of the night torn between reading about call center jobs and reviewing the positive comments on her videos. It was as if she were living in two completely different worlds. The next morning, she woke up determined to have a deeper conversation with her mother. She couldn't stand living with that constant tension at home anymore. Karen was alone in the kitchen making breakfast. It was the perfect moment to talk without interruptions. "Mom, can I ask you something?" said Emily, sitting at the table. "Of course, honey. Do you really think I'm a disappointment?" Karen stopped what she was doing and looked at Emily in surprise. "Emily, why are you asking that?" Because sometimes I feel like I'll never make you proud of me." Karen sat beside her daughter, her expression softening. "Emily, you're not a disappointment. I'm just worried about your future. But you don't believe my work can succeed." "Honey, it's not about believing or not. It's about being realistic. How many people actually make a living from posting videos online?" Emily took a deep breath before answering. "Mom, have you ever stopped to think that maybe I'm different from other people? That maybe I don't fit the traditional career mold? Emily, everyone thinks they're special, that they're different, but real life doesn't work that way. How can you be so sure? Have you ever tried doing something different in life?" Karen fell silent for a moment. Emily realized she'd touched a nerve. "Emily, I got married at 20 and had you kids. I didn't have the luxury of experimenting with different careers. But that doesn't mean I have to follow the same path. It means you should value the opportunities you have. I didn't get to choose. You do." Emily realized there was a fundamental difference in how she and her mother saw opportunities. To Karen, a steady job was an achievement. To Emily, it felt like a prison. "Mum, what if I can prove my work can succeed? Would you give me a chance?" "What kind of chance?" 6 months. "If in 6 months I'm not making money from the videos, I'll take any job you suggest." Karen thought for a moment. "And in the meantime, will you keep avoiding contributing to the household expenses?" "I can do some freelance work to help. I know how to edit videos. I can offer that service to others." It was an idea that had come to her on the spot, but Emily realized it made sense. She really did have skills she could monetize while building her main career. 6 months, Karen repeated. 6 months. "And if it doesn't work out, you'll take a regular job without complaining." "I will." Karen extended her hand. "Deal." "But Emily, if you don't hold up your end of the agreement, I won't have patience for any more talks about this." Emily shook her mother's hand, feeling a mix of relief and pressure. She'd gotten a deadline, but now the responsibility of proving her point was even greater. The rest of the family found out about the agreement during lunch. Robert seemed relieved to have a resolution to the conflict, while Jessica was skeptical. 6 months isn't much time to build a career, Emily?" "It's the time I have," Emily replied. "I'll make it work." That afternoon, Emily called Sarah. "Hi, Sarah. I've decided to accept your offer." "That's wonderful news," Sarah exclaimed. "You won't regret it. But I need to tell you I have a deadline, 6 months to start seeing financial returns." 6 months is a fair time frame. We'll work hard to reach that goal." They scheduled a meeting for the next day to iron out the partnership details and start planning the first videos. Emily hung up the phone feeling more determined than she had in a long time. She had a real chance to prove her dreams weren't just fantasies. For the rest of the afternoon, she began working on a strategy to offer video editing services. She put together a portfolio of her best work and started promoting it on social media. To her surprise, within just a few hours, she received 3 messages from people interested in hiring her. Apparently, there was a demand for this kind of work she hadn't noticed before. One message was from a small restaurant wanting promotional videos for their social media. Another was from a clothing store needing help with digital content. The third was from a private individual looking to edit family videos. Emily replied to all of them and scheduled calls to discuss the projects. For the first time in ages, she felt like she was taking control of her life. At dinner, she told her family about the freelance opportunities. "Did you see I already have 3 clients interested in editing services?" "That's wonderful, sweetheart," said Robert. "It shows you really have skills the market values." Even Karen seemed impressed. "How much do you plan to charge for these jobs?" "I'm still researching market rates, but I could make around $1,000 just from these 3 projects." $1,000? Jessica sounded surprised. "I didn't know you could earn that much from video editing." Emily felt a special satisfaction seeing her family finally recognizing her skills as something marketable. That night, she worked late preparing proposals for potential clients and planning her new routine. She'd divide her time between freelance work, which would provide immediate income, and the project with Sarah, which could be her long-term career. For the first time in weeks, Emily went to bed without that heavy feeling of dread in her chest. She had a plan, real opportunities, and most importantly, her family's support for 6 months. The next day, Emily met with Sarah again to finalize the partnership details. They set a recording schedule, divided responsibilities, and established monthly goals. "Let's start with 2 videos a week," Sarah said. "I'll prepare the scripts with the nutritional info, and you'll handle production and editing." "Perfect. What about monetization?" "We'll create the channel with a focus on sponsorships. I have some contacts in the food industry who might be interested in our content." Emily felt she was finally stepping into a more professional phase of her career. It wasn't just her making videos alone anymore. Now she had a qualified partner and a structured plan. When she got home, Karen asked about the meeting. "How did it go with the nutritionist?" "Really well, Mom. We made a detailed plan for the next few months." "And does she seem serious, trustworthy?" "Yes, very. She has experience in the field and has worked with other people online." Karen nodded, still not entirely convinced, but respecting the agreement they'd made. Over. The following weeks, Emily settled into an intense work routine. Mornings were for freelance projects. Afternoons were dedicated to content creation with Sarah. Evenings were for editing videos and responding to audience comments. The first videos from their partnership were well received. They covered topics like myths about carbohydrates and how to build a balanced plate, always using accessible language and practical demonstrations. The new channel they created together quickly started gaining followers. Within 2 weeks, they already had 500 subscribers, and the videos were being shared in groups of people interested in healthy eating. Meanwhile, the freelance work was also going well. The restaurant was very satisfied with the promotional videos Emily created and had already ordered 3 more. The clothing store also became a regular client. Emily was earning about $1,500 a month from freelancing, an amount that already allowed her to contribute to household expenses and still leave a little extra to invest in better equipment. "Emily, I'm impressed by your dedication," Karen said one evening when she saw her daughter working late. "You're really taking this seriously." "I've always taken it seriously, Mum. The difference is that now it's paying off financially." "That's true. And I admit I was wrong about some things." Those words meant a lot to Emily. It was the first time her mother had admitted she'd underestimated her work. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps a lot for those of us just starting out. Now back to the story. But not everything was easy. The workload was intense, and Emily began feeling the weight of the pressure she'd put on herself. She had 6 months to prove she could succeed, and she was only in the first month. On top of that, some problems started arising. One, freelance. Client delayed payment, citing financial difficulties. Another cancelled a project midway after Emily had already put in hours of work. On the channel with Sarah, they discovered monetizing through ads would take longer than expected. YouTube required 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time to allow ads, a goal still far off. "We'll have to focus on brand partnerships," Sarah said during one of their weekly meetings. "It's the fastest way to start. Generating revenue. But will brands want to pay for a small channel like ours? Emily asked. If we offer good value, yes. Smaller channels sometimes have better engagement than big ones. They began sending proposals to supplement companies, organic food brands and natural product stores. Some didn't respond. Others said the channel was still too small. But one natural supplement company showed interest, a small brand just starting out, looking for affordable ways to promote itself. They want to pay $500 for a sponsored video, Sarah said excitedly. $500. Emily was thrilled. It was their first real sponsorship. Yes, and if the video gets good engagement, they want to do more collaborations. Emily felt she was finally seeing concrete results. $500 split between them meant $250 each, plus her freelance earnings. It was starting to add up to a decent amount. The sponsored video was carefully produced. Sarah prepared a script that presented the supplement's benefits in an educational way without being overly promotional. Emily put extra effort into the production, using different angles and more. Dynamic editing. The result was great. The video got more views than their previous ones and received positive comments about the content quality. The company was satisfied and proposed a monthly partnership, one video per month for $800. It was a significant increase and meant steady income for the project. Emily, I think we're on the right track, Sarah said. If we can secure 2 or 3 more partnerships like this, we'll already have a decent income. Emily was optimistic, but also knew there was still a lot of work ahead. She was in the second month of her 6-month deadline, and though she had made progress, she still wasn't earning enough to fully support herself. It was around this time that an unexpected problem arose. Jessica, her sister, began questioning whether Emily was really holding up her end of the deal with their parents. Emily, are you actually making what you say you're making? Jessica asked one night when they were alone in the bedroom. Why are you asking that? Because Mom mentioned you haven't shown any proof of income. How do we know you're not making up those numbers? Emily was offended by the insinuation. You think I'm lying? I'm not saying you're lying. I just think it would be good to be transparent with Mom and Dad. Jessica, I have contracts with clients, receipts, bank transfers. I can prove everything I'm saying. Then why don't you? Show Mom and Dad you're really making money. Emily realized her sister had a point. She had gotten used to talking about her earnings, but had never shown concrete evidence to the family. The next morning, she organized all her documents, freelance, contracts, payment receipts, bank statements, showing the transfers. She prepared a simple presentation detailing how much she had earned each month and what her future prospects looked like. At dinner, she presented the numbers to her family. Look, here's all the proof. In the first month, I made $1,200. In the second, $1,800. And for this month, I already have $2,100 guaranteed. Robert examined the documents carefully. Emily, these numbers are real. Congratulations, sweetheart. Even Karen seemed impressed. I had no idea you were making this much, and these numbers are expected to grow? Yes, Mom. Every month, I'm getting more clients and better contracts. Jessica stayed quiet, apparently surprised by the reality of the numbers. Emily realized her sister had underestimated her progress. And how's the project with the nutritionist going? Robert asked. It's going well too. We already have a steady partnership and are negotiating others. That presentation marked a turning point in Emily's relationship with her family. For the first time, they saw concrete evidence that her work was yielding financial results. But Emily knew she couldn't relax. She was in the 3rd month of her 6-month deadline, and though she was doing well, she still needed to solidify her earnings and prove they were sustainable long-term. It was around then that she received an unexpected offer. A digital marketing company from Chicago had seen her videos and wanted to hire her as a content producer. The starting salary would be $3,000, the company representative explained over the phone. You'd be responsible for creating content for our clients, mostly promotional and educational videos. Emily was torn. It was a traditional job offer, with a contract and benefits, but it would mean abandoning her personal projects. Can I think about it for a few days? She asked. Of course, but we'll need an answer by Friday. Emily hung up, her mind racing. This was exactly the kind of opportunity her family had always hoped she'd get. A real job with a steady salary and stability. But it would also mean walking away from everything she had built over the past few months. Her partnership with Sarah, her freelance clients, her personal channel. She told Sarah about the offer. "It's a tough decision," Sarah said. "Financially, it's more security in the short term. But what about our project? It was going so well. Emily, you need to do what's best for you. If you accept the job, I'll completely understand." Emily also talked to her family about the offer. Their reaction was exactly what she expected. "Emily, this is an amazing opportunity," exclaimed Karen. $3,000 to start with room for growth. "And with benefits," Robert added. "It's the stability you need." "But what about our agreement? I still have 3 months," Emily said. "Sweetheart, the agreement was for you to prove you could make money with your work. You've done that. Now you have an even better opportunity." Emily spent the week thinking about her decision. On one hand, the job offered security and her family's full approval. On the other, it would mean giving up building something of her own, being her own boss. On Thursday, the day before she had to respond, she had a decisive conversation with Sarah. "Sarah, if I take the job, do you think you can keep the project going alone?" "I could, but it wouldn't be the same. You have a special talent for production and communication. And what if I turn down the job and our project doesn't work out? Emily, there's no guarantee of success in any choice, but there's a fundamental difference. At the job, you'd be working to fulfill someone else's dreams. With our project, you're working for your own." Those words echoed in Emily's mind all night. On Friday morning, she called the company. "Thank you so much for the opportunity, but I've decided to continue with my personal projects." "Are you sure? This kind of chance might not come again." "I'm sure." Hanging up, Emily felt a mix of relief and apprehension. She'd chosen the riskier path, but the one that made the most sense to her. Her family's reaction was disbelief. "Emily, you turned down a $3,000 job?" Karen asked, stunned. "I did, Mom." "But why? It was exactly what you needed." "Because it wasn't what I wanted." Robert tried to mediate. "Emily, maybe you should reconsider. Opportunities like this don't come often." "Dad, I understand your concern, but I believe in my work." Jessica shook her head. "Sometimes you're too stubborn, Emily. You need to learn to accept when something good comes your way." Emily felt at odds with her family again, but this time she was more confident in her choice. She'd proven she could earn money from her work, and she wanted to see how far she could go. In the following weeks, Emily threw herself even deeper into her projects. She landed 2 more freelance clients and secured another partnership for the channel with Sarah. But she also faced new challenges. The competition in content production was fierce, and standing out wasn't always easy. Some clients were difficult with excessive demands and tight deadlines. One day, Emily's confidence took a hit when a client cancelled a big project at the last minute, citing a change in strategy. It was work that would have paid $1,500, money she'd already counted on for the month. "Sarah, sometimes I wonder if I should have taken that job," Emily confessed during one of their meetings. "It's normal to have doubts. Being an entrepreneur means dealing with uncertainty all the time. But what if I'm fooling myself? What if I can't actually build a sustainable career?" "Emily, look at everything you've already achieved. 6 months ago, you weren't earning anything. Now you have regular clients and a growing partnership." Sarah was right. Even with the ups and downs, Emily had come a long way. She decided to focus on what was working and find ways to minimize risks. One strategy she adopted was diversifying her income streams even further. In addition to freelancing and her partnership with Sarah, she began offering online courses on video production. The first course was about how to create professional videos with simple equipment. She charged $99 per student and got 23 sign-ups for the first class. $2,200 from just one course. Emily told Sarah excitedly. "And you can repeat the course as many times as you want. It's a recurring source of income." Emily realized she had found an interesting business model, combining personalized services, freelancing, partnerships, the channel with Sarah, and digital products, courses. She was in the 5th month of the 6-month deadline she had agreed to with her family. Her monthly earnings were already around $3,000, the same as the job she had turned down. But Emily wanted more than just matching the salary from that job. She wanted to prove she could build something bigger, something of her own and sustainable. It was around this time that she received an offer that would completely change her perspective. A regional supermarket chain wanted to hire her to create a series of educational videos about healthy eating. They want 12 videos over 6 months, the chain's representative explained during a meeting. The total payment would be $15,000 for the entire project. Emily could hardly believe what she was hearing. $15,000 was more than she earned in 5 months of work. "Did you choose our channel specifically?" Sarah asked. "Yes. You have exactly the profile we're looking for. Quality content, accessible language, and technical credibility." Emily and Sarah accepted the offer right away. It was the opportunity they needed to solidify their work for good. When Emily shared the news with her family, their reaction was total surprise. $15,000, Robert repeated, for 6 months of work. "Yes, Dad, and after splitting it with Sarah, it'll be $7,500 for me." Emily. Karen seemed to be processing the information. "That's more than I make working an entire year." It was true. Karen worked as a cleaning assistant at a school and earned minimum wage. Seeing her daughter make more in 6 months than she did in a whole year was a twist no one in the family had anticipated. "Sweetheart, now I understand why you didn't want to take that job," Robert said. "You knew you could achieve something bigger." "Actually, Dad, I didn't know, I just believed it was possible." Jessica stayed silent the entire time. Emily noticed her sister was struggling to process her success. "Jessica, are you okay?" Emily asked. It's just that I didn't expect you to succeed so quickly." Emily understood there was a hint of jealousy in her sister's reaction. Jessica had always been the perfect daughter, who followed the traditional path and had her parents' approval. Seeing Emily achieve greater financial success by taking an unconventional route was hard to accept. "Jessica, this doesn't change anything between us," Emily said, trying to reassure her sister. "I know, it's just sometimes I wonder if I should have taken more risks in life." That conversation made Emily reflect on how her choices affected not just herself, but also those around her. Her success was making others question their own decisions. The project with the supermarket chain started the following week. Emily and Sarah had to create videos on topics like how to choose fruits and vegetables, making the most of food, and healthy meals on a budget. It was a bigger challenge than anything they'd done before. The videos needed professional quality and had to cover technical topics in a simple, engaging way. Emily invested part of the money she had earned in better equipment, a more professional camera, higher quality microphones, and a proper lighting setup. "Now this really looks like a proper studio," said Robert, observing the room Emily had turned into a recording space. "It's important to invest in quality, Dad. Clients expect professional results." The first video in the series was about how to set up a garden in small spaces. Emily and Sarah filmed in an outdoor area, demonstrating practical planting techniques and plant care. The results exceeded the supermarket chain's expectations. The video had high engagement on the company's social media and generated many positive comments from customers. "You delivered exactly what we wanted," said the chain's marketing manager. "Educational content that also naturally promotes our products." Emily was experiencing the best professional moment of her life. Her earnings had increased. Dramatically, she had interesting projects and finally her family's recognition. But it was during this time of success that an unexpected problem arose. Sarah received an offer to work as a nutritional consultant at a private clinic with a very attractive salary. "Emily, I need to talk to you about something important," said Sarah during one of their meetings. "Of course, go ahead. I got a job offer that's hard to refuse. The salary is really good, and it would be a leadership position." Emily felt her stomach drop. Her partnership with Sarah was crucial to the channel's success and the projects they were developing. Does this mean you're leaving our partnership? Not necessarily. I could still collaborate, just less, intensively. Maybe one video a month instead of 2 a week. Emily realized this would completely change their work dynamic. The channel had grown based on regular uploads and the complementary balance between Sarah's technical knowledge and her production skills. Sarah, do you really want to take this job? It's a chance for professional growth, and financially, it would be more stable. Emily completely understood her partner's position. It was the same decision she had faced months earlier when she turned down the marketing job. When do you need to give them an answer? Next week, Emily spent the following days thinking about how to handle Sarah's possible departure. She could try to convince her to stay by offering better terms in their partnership, or she could accept the change and adapt her work to the new reality. After much reflection, she decided to have an honest talk with Sarah. Sarah, I understand your decision, and I won't try to convince you to stay, but I'd like to know if there's any way we can keep collaborating, even if it's less frequently. Of course, Emily. I really admire your work, and I wouldn't want to lose our partnership entirely. How about we do 1 video a month, and I can start developing my own content for the other videos? That sounds like a good idea. You already know enough to create independent content. It was true. During the months working with Sarah, Emily had learned a lot about nutrition and healthy eating. She felt confident creating her own content in several areas. They restructured their partnership. Sarah would contribute 1 technical video a month, while Emily would develop her own content for the other videos, focusing on organization, productivity, and healthy living. The change ended up being positive for Emily. She discovered she had more creative freedom and could explore topics that had always interested her but didn't fit the previous format. Her solo videos began to take on a more personal tone. She spoke about her own experiences, challenges she had faced in her career, and practical tips for those who wanted to work online. One of her most popular videos was How I Convinced My Family to Accept My Unconventional Career. In it, Emily shared her own story, from the initial struggles to her current success. Many people go through the same thing I did, she said, to the camera. Family wants what's best for us, but sometimes they don't understand there are different paths to success. The video received hundreds of comments from people who related to her story. Many shared their own experiences with families who didn't support unconventional careers. Emily realized she had found a niche, people who wanted to work independently but faced family or social resistance. She began creating content specifically for this audience. Videos on how to structure a business, handle the financial uncertainty of freelance life, and manage time while working from home. The channel grew quickly. In 2 months, she gained over 2,000 new subscribers and started receiving messages from people asking for personalized consulting. That's how her next income stream emerged. Coaching for those who wanted to work independently. Emily charged $200 for a 1-hour session, helping people structure their businesses and overcome emotional obstacles. Emily, you've become a reference for women entrepreneurs, a client remarked after a coaching session. Reference is a strong word, Emily laughed. I just share what I've learned through experience, but it was true. Emily had become an inspiration for many women in the area. She received invitations to speak at local events, appear on podcasts, and give interviews for blogs. The 6th month of her original deadline had arrived, and Emily was earning far more than she had promised her family. Her monthly income was around $5,000, considering all her revenue streams. During a family dinner, Robert raised a toast to Emily, who proved she was right from the start. Thank you, Dad. But you all played a part too. The pressure you put on me motivated me to work even harder. Karen smiled. I admit I was wrong, honey. You really built something special. Even Jessica, who had shown jealousy before, now seemed genuinely proud of her sister. Emily, you've inspired me to rethink my own career. I'm thinking about taking a digital marketing course. Really? That's great, Jessica. I can help you with whatever you need. The family had reached a new balance. Emily was no longer seen as the problematic daughter with her head in the clouds. She had become an example of determination and success. But Emily knew her success wasn't built on hard work alone. There was also the, albeit reluctant, support of her family, the luck of meeting Sarah at the right time, and the courage to turn down a stable job to bet on something uncertain. She decided to use her position to help others going through what she had. She began organizing free workshops on digital entrepreneurship for young people in the area. Many people have talent but don't know how to monetize it. Emily explained during the first workshop, "My goal is to democratize this knowledge." The workshops were a success. Emily taught everything from technical aspects like video editing and social media use to more subjective topics like dealing with insecurity and family pressure. One participant was Olivia, a 22-year-old who made handmade dolls but struggled to sell her work. "Emily, my family thinks crafts aren't a serious career. How did you handle that?" Olivia, "The secret isn't convincing your family with words but with results. Once you start making money, they'll understand." Emily helped Olivia create an online sales strategy and taught her how to photograph her products professionally. Within 2 months, Olivia was selling $15 a month and earning over $1,000. "Emily, you changed my life," Olivia said during one of the follow-up workshops. "Now my family sees me as a businesswoman." Stories like Olivia's multiplied. Emily was helping dozens of people turn their talents into income, and it made her feel her work had a greater purpose beyond just financial success. A year after the initial agreement with her family, Emily took stock of everything she'd achieved. She was earning over $6,000 a month, had several exciting projects, and had become a positive influence in the local community. But what made her proudest wasn't the numbers, it was the shift in how her family saw her. Karen, who once considered her daughter's work a fantasy, now consulted her on financial matters. "Emily, do you understand investments?" Karen asked one day. "I want to put my extra salary money somewhere, but I don't know where." "I know a bit, Mom. I can help you research the best options." Robert had also changed his view on unconventional work. "Emily, I have a friend who wants to start an online business. Could you talk to him?" "Of course, Dad. I'll set up a meeting." The most striking transformation was in Jessica, who actually decided to switch careers. She left her administrative job to work in digital marketing, first as a freelancer. "Emily, I want to partner with you," Jessica proposed. "You create the content and I'll handle the marketing strategy." "I'd love to work with you, Jessica. Let's discuss the possibilities." Emily realized she'd created a positive cycle. Her success inspired others to forge their own paths, which further strengthened her position as a role model in entrepreneurship. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. 2 years after that phone call she'd overheard by chance, Emily reflected on how a single conversation had been the catalyst for such profound changes in her life. She never confronted her mother directly about the words she'd heard on the phone. She didn't need to. The results spoke for themselves. One quiet afternoon, while editing a new video, Emily got an unexpected call. It was Betty, the neighbor, who'd been part of that fateful conversation with her mother. "Emily, it's Betty, your mom's neighbor." "Hi, Betty, how are you?" "I'm fine, dear. I'm calling because my granddaughter wants to work online like you. Your mom said you might give her some tips." Emily smiled, remembering how the same Betty had agreed with her mother's negative comments about her work. "Of course, Betty. I'd be happy to help your granddaughter." "That's wonderful. You know, Emily, I was talking to your mom yesterday and she can't stop bragging about your success. She must be so proud." "Yes, things are much better between us now." "And..." "Listen, Emily, I want to apologize for something. A while back your mum was worried about you and we ended up talking. Maybe we were too critical." Emily's heart raced. Betty was indirectly referencing that conversation she'd overheard. "Don't worry, Betty. People worry because they care." "That's true, but now I see you were right to believe in your work. You're an example for the young women around here." After hanging up the phone, Emily kept thinking about how people's perceptions had changed. Betty, who once saw her work as a fantasy, now sought her out as a role model for her own granddaughter. This shift in perception hadn't happened only with Betty and her family. Emily had become known in the neighborhood as the girl who made it online. Neighbors stopped her on the street to ask for advice, and friends' mothers reached out for help with their children. One story that stood out to her was Mrs. Margaret's, a 60-year-old woman who made a living baking homemade sweets. "Emily, my daughter told me you teach people how to sell online. Do you think an old lady like me can learn?" "Mrs. Margaret, you have a delicious product and a beautiful story. Of course you can." Emily helped Mrs. Margaret set up social media profiles and photograph her treats. Soon, the woman was receiving orders from all over the metropolitan area. "Emily, I don't know how to thank you," Mrs. Margaret said, crying. "Now I can help my son with household expenses." Moments like these made Emily realize her work had gone beyond the personal need to prove something to her family. She was truly impacting other people's lives. With 3 years of a solid career behind her, Emily decided to take a bigger step. She rented a small commercial space to set up a professional studio and offer more structured services. The studio was in a small office in downtown Naperville. It wasn't large, but it had everything she needed: a recording area, meeting space, and a small reception. "Emily, what progress," Robert said on opening day, "from an improvised bedroom to a professional studio." "Yeah, Dad. And to think 3 years ago the whole family wanted me to give this up." Karen, who was helping, organized the space, smiled. "Emily, I need to apologize for not believing in you from the start." "Mom, you don't have to apologize. You wanted what was best for me. But sometimes what we think is best for someone isn't necessarily what they need." It was a profound reflection coming from Karen. Emily realized her mother had also learned and grown during that process. The studio allowed Emily to expand her services. She began working with bigger clients, recording videos for companies, and hosting in-person workshops. One of the projects she was most proud of was Women Entrepreneurs, a monthly program where she interviewed women from the area who had started their own businesses. "The goal is to show there are many different ways to succeed," Emily explained in the first episode. "There's no single model for success." The program was well received and began attracting attention from local organizations. The city of Naperville invited Emily to participate in a campaign encouraging female entrepreneurship. "Emily, we'd like to invite you to be an ambassador for the Municipal Small Business Support Program," said the campaign coordinator. "It would be an honor to participate." Though unpaid, the role represented official recognition of her work. Emily, who just a few years earlier had been seen as a lost young woman, was now invited to represent the city in matters of entrepreneurship. The program's launch ceremony took place in the City Hall auditorium. Emily was asked to give a speech about her journey. "4 years ago, I was in this same auditorium for a talk on formal employment," Emily began, addressing the crowd. "Back then, I felt like I didn't fit any of the opportunities presented." She shared her story, the early struggles, her family's resistance, her first clients, the gradual growth. "Today, I'm not here to say my path is the only one, but to show there are possibilities beyond the traditional." The speech received a standing ovation. Among the audience was her entire family, Karen, Robert, and Jessica, who now also had her own digital business. After the talk, a young woman approached Emily. "My name is Madison, I'm 23, and my parents think I should stop trying to be a YouTuber and get a regular job." Emily smiled, recognizing her own story in the young woman. "Madison, tell me more about your work." "I make videos about beauty and fashion. I have 1,000 subscribers, but I'm not making any money yet." 1,000 subscribers is a great start. Have you thought about diversifying your income streams? Emily spent half an hour talking with Madison, giving practical tips on monetization and advice on handling family pressure. "Thank you, Emily. You've given me hope to keep going." "Keep at it, Madison. And if you need help, reach out to me." Interactions like this happened constantly. Emily had become a role model for young people facing the same challenges she once had. With 5 years in her career, Emily decided to write a book about her experience. It wasn't something she had planned, but many people had asked her to. Organize her knowledge. "From Bedroom to Business: How I Turned My Passion into a Profession" was the working title. Emily wanted to tell her story honestly, including moments of doubt, failures, and struggles. She didn't want to create a fantasy of easy success. The important thing is to show that the path isn't linear, she explained to Jessica, who was helping with the text revisions. There was a lot of hardship, a lot of uncertainty. And that's what made the victory even more valuable, Jessica replied. The book took a year to complete. Emily decided to self-publish, applying the same philosophy she used in her business, controlling her own destiny. The launch took place in her own studio with family, friends, and clients in attendance. It was a small but meaningful celebration. "This book represents everything I've learned," Emily said during the launch. "I hope it can help others find their own paths." Karen, sitting in the front row, was moved by her daughter's speech. "I never imagined I'd see my daughter publishing a book about her own business." "Neither did I, Mum. Life surprises us." The book had a good local impact. Emily sold 300 copies in the first 2 months, mostly to people who followed her work. But more important than sales were the testimonials she received. People sharing how the book had inspired them to pursue their own paths, face family resistance, and turn talents into professions. One testimonial that stood out came from a mother. "Emily, I read your book and decided to support my son, who wants to be a graphic designer. Before, I thought he should take a civil service exam, but now I understand there are other possibilities." It was proof that her story was helping change mindsets, not just among young entrepreneurs, but also among parents and families. 6 years after that life-changing phone call, Emily reflected on everything she had achieved. Financially, she was far beyond what she had initially dreamed. Professionally, she had built a solid reputation in the region. Personally, she had harmonious family relationships and a clear life purpose. But what made her proudest was knowing she'd stayed true to her values and dreams, even when everyone around her doubted them. One afternoon, while organizing old files on her computer, Emily found the first video she had ever recorded. It was about closet organization, had poor technical quality, and only 23 views. She laughed, comparing that amateur video to the professional productions she made now. The progress was impressive, but the essence remained the same: a desire to help people and share knowledge. Emily decided to re-record that first video, using the same script, but with all the experience and equipment she had acquired over the years. "This video is a tribute to my beginnings," she said to the camera. 6 years ago, I recorded for the first time about this same topic. The quality was poor, but the passion was already there. The new video about closet organization became one of the most watched on her channel. People loved the idea of seeing her growth, and many commented about their own journeys of improvement. It was at that moment Emily realized something important. Her greatest success wasn't financial or professional, but personal. She had become the person she always wanted to be. The insecure young woman who cried in her bedroom listening to her mother's criticism had transformed into a confident business owner, a leader in her field, and an inspiration to others. But Emily knew none of this would have been possible if she hadn't overheard that painful phone conversation. Ironically, the words that hurt her the most were also the ones that motivated her to change. During one of her late-night reflections, she thought about what her life would be like if she had never heard that call. Maybe she would have kept making videos without much ambition, without the urgency to prove something to herself and her family. The pain had become fuel for growth. The suffering had turned into strength to overcome. Emily decided it was time to tell her mother about the call she had overheard, not to cause guilt or pain, but to close a chapter and express gratitude. One Sunday morning, as they had coffee together, Emily brought it up. "Mom, I need to tell you something about how this all started." "What is it, honey?" "Remember that time when I was just starting with the videos and you were worried about me?" "I do. I really was very concerned. One day you were talking to Betty on the phone and forgot the speaker was on. I heard the whole conversation." Karen turned pale. "Emily, what did you hear?" "You said I was a disappointment, that I lived in a fantasy world, that I needed to grow up and take responsibility." Tears began streaming down Karen's face. "Honey, that wasn't what I truly thought. I was just venting." Mom, let me finish." Emily held her mother's hand. Hearing that was very painful, but it also motivated me to prove I was right. Emily, forgive me. I had no idea you heard. Mom, you don't need to apologize. I want to thank you. Karen looked confused. Thank me? Yes. If I hadn't heard that conversation, I might never have had the motivation to work so hard and build all this. But honey, I hurt you so much. You did, but you also made me stronger. Sometimes we need a push, even a painful one, to discover what we're capable of. Karen cried silently, processing the revelation. Emily hugged her. Mom, I understand now that you said those things because you were scared. Scared I wouldn't be able to support myself, scared I would suffer. That's exactly it, Emily. I just wanted to protect you. And in a way you did. You gave me the motivation I needed to become independent and capable. That conversation marked a new level in their mother-daughter relationship. Karen finally understood how her words had impacted Emily, and Emily was able to express her gratitude for the motivation, even if it had been painful. Emily, can I ask you something? Karen said. Of course, Mom. Did you ever feel like giving up during all this? Emily laughed. Mom, I wanted to quit at least once a week for the first 2 years. So, what kept you going? First came anger, then came passion, and in the end came purpose. Purpose? Yes. When I started seeing I could help other people, everything made more sense. Karen shook her head. Emily, can you teach me something? What, Mom? How do you support someone who's following a path we don't understand? It was a deep and honest question. Karen was acknowledging her limitations and asking for guidance. I think the most important thing is separating concern from disbelief, Emily replied. You can worry about someone without belittling their dreams. How so? For example, you could have said, Emily, I'm worried about your financial stability. How can we work together to minimize the risks? Instead of, Emily, this is a fantasy. I see. It's about validating the person, but helping with the practical aspects. Exactly, Mom. That conversation became a model for other family discussions. The family learned to separate legitimate concern from destructive judgment. With 7 years in her career, Emily was ready for a new challenge. She decided to expand her business by opening a consulting firm for small entrepreneurs. EJ Digital Consulting would be the name of the new company, offering full digital marketing and business strategy services. Emily hired her first employee, a young marketing graduate who had attended her workshops. Ashley, you'll be responsible for managing our clients' social media, Emily explained on her first day. Emily, working with you is a dream. I've followed your work for years. It was rewarding for Emily to see she had become a role model for the new generation of marketing professionals. The company grew quickly. Within 6 months, they had 15 regular clients and a waiting list for new services. Emily realized she had created a virtuous cycle. Her personal success built credibility, which attracted clients, which generated more success, further strengthening her position in the market. But she never forgot her roots. She continued offering free workshops and kept prices affordable for small entrepreneurs. I never want someone to give up on their dreams because they lack resources, Emily explained to her team. Our role is to democratize knowledge. One afternoon, Emily received a call that moved her deeply. It was Madison, the young YouTuber she'd met years earlier at her talk. Emily, I have to tell you something. Now I make over $10,000 a month from my channel, and my parents are so proud. Madison, that's wonderful. Tell me everything. I followed your advice, diversified my income streams, created digital products, and it worked. I knew it would. You always had talent. You just needed guidance. Emily, now I want to do for others what you did for me. I want to help people. That's how we make the world better, Madison. Everyone who achieves their dreams can help others do the same. Conversations like this confirmed to Emily that she had found her true purpose, not just building her own success, but creating opportunities for others to build theirs. With 8 years in her career, Emily was invited to speak at the region's biggest entrepreneurship event, the ultimate recognition of her work. The talk would be held at McCormick Place Convention Center for an audience of over 1,000 people. It was a far cry from the small workshops she used to lead. From disappointment to inspiration, How I Turned Criticism into Fuel for Success was the title of her presentation. Emily spent weeks preparing the talk. She wanted to tell her story in a way that inspired, but was also practical and useful for the audience. On the day of the event, her entire family was there. Karen, Robert, Jessica, and even some neighbors had bought tickets. Emily, 8 years ago, I never would have imagined I'd be watching my daughter give a speech to 1,000 people, Robert said before the presentation. Neither would I, Dad. Life is full of surprises. The talk was an absolute success. Emily moved the audience by sharing her journey, but she also offered practical tips on entrepreneurship and overcoming obstacles. The most emotional moment was when she invited Karen to the stage. I want to introduce you to the person who, without even knowing it, gave me the most powerful motivation of my life. My mother, Karen. The audience applauded as Karen, shyly, stepped onto the stage. My mom taught me that sometimes the people who love us the most are also the ones who challenge us the most, Emily said, and that true love sometimes comes disguised as concern. Karen was too emotional to speak, but she waved to the crowd who cheered for her warmly. After the talk, dozens of people approached Emily to thank her, ask questions, and seek advice. It was rewarding to see how her story resonated with people of different ages and backgrounds. A 50-year-old businesswoman came up to her. Emily, your story made me rethink my relationship with my teenage daughter. She wants to be an artist and I've always discouraged her. I'm going to change my approach. That's what I want most, for families to learn to support each other's dreams, Emily replied. With 10 years of a solid career behind her, Emily looked back and saw an extraordinary journey. From an insecure and misunderstood young woman, she had become a successful entrepreneur, a reference in business, and a positive influence in the lives of hundreds of people. Her annual revenue had reached $300,000, a figure that represented not just financial success, but the confirmation that she had built something sustainable and valuable. More important than the numbers, however, were the relationships she had built. Her family was now her greatest support system. Karen often appeared in her videos, sharing her own perspective on her daughter's journey. Robert had become an informal advisor, offering his more experienced perspective on his daughter's business. Jessica had become her partner in the consulting firm, bringing her management expertise to complement Emily's technical skills. Who would have thought the two sisters, who always had such different views on life, would end up working together? Jessica remarked during a planning meeting. Turns out our differences complement each other, Emily replied. The company had grown to a team of 8, serving over 100 clients in different cities across the metropolitan area. Emily kept up her routine of free workshops, always, remembering her roots and the importance of helping those just starting out. At one of these sessions, she met Tyler, a 20-year-old who made wooden crafts. Emily, my dad thinks I should give this up and get a real job. He says crafting has no future. Emily smiled, remembering similar conversations she'd had with her own family. Tyler, show me your work. The young man opened his phone and displayed photos of beautiful pieces. Tables, shelves, decorative items. Tyler, your work is professional quality. The problem isn't the product, it's the sales strategy. Emily spent 2 hours helping Tyler structure a business plan, create an online presence, and set fair prices. 6 months later, Tyler returned to thank her. Emily, now I'm selling 5 pieces a month and making more than minimum wage. My dad even started helping me in the workshop. That's wonderful, Tyler. See how important it was to stick to your dream. I do. And now I want to help other artisans in the area do the same. This was how Emily saw life, a continuous cycle of learning, growing, and sharing. On a special afternoon, exactly 10 years after overhearing that painful phone conversation, Emily decided to record a special video for her channel. Hello, everyone. Today marks a very special date for me. Exactly 10 years ago, I heard words that changed my life forever. She told the whole story, the conversation she overheard by chance, the pain she felt, the determination that was born from that pain and everything she had built since then. I want to leave a message for anyone watching who's going through something similar. Sometimes the most painful words can become the greatest fuel for our growth. The video received thousands of views and hundreds of comments from people sharing their own stories of overcoming hardships. One comment in particular caught her attention. "Emily, I'm the mother of a 25-year-old daughter who wants to work in art. After watching your video, I realized I need to support her instead of discouraging her. Thank you for opening my eyes." Emily replied, "Family support is the most powerful fuel there is. Your daughter is very lucky to have a mother who's willing to learn and grow." That evening, Emily had dinner with her family, as they did every Sunday. The table was full, her, Karen, Robert, Jessica, and her new boyfriend, and even Sarah, who had practically become part of the family. "Emily, I'd like to make a toast," Robert said, raising his glass. "To what, Dad?" "To our daughter, who taught us there's more than one way to be successful in life. And who taught us the importance of supporting each other's dreams," Karen added, "and who proved that hard work and determination always pay off," Jessica finished. Emily looked around the table at the people she loved most in the world, all proud of the path she had chosen. It was an indescribable feeling of fulfillment. "I want to make a toast," Emily said, raising her glass, "to the family who, even when they didn't understand my dreams, never stopped loving me, and who learned from me just as much as I learned from you." They all raised their glasses, sealing a decade of growth, learning, and love. Later, alone in her room, Emily looked out the window and reflected on everything she had been through. The young woman who once cried hearing her mother's criticism had become a confident, successful, and fulfilled woman. But what made her proudest wasn't material achievements. It was the people she had impacted, the families she had helped reconcile, the dreams she had helped come true. Emily picked up her phone and recorded one last message for her social media. "Good evening, everyone. Today marks 10 years of my career, and I want to leave you with a thought. Success isn't just about achieving our own dreams, but about creating opportunities for others to achieve theirs. If you're going through a tough time, if your family doesn't understand your dreams, if you're questioning whether it's worth continuing, remember, every great journey begins with one brave first step. Sometimes that step is continuing even when no one believes in you. Sometimes it's turning pain into determination. Sometimes it's simply not giving up. Believe in yourselves, because when you achieve your dreams, you inspire others to do the same. And that's how we create a world where more people can be happy doing what they love." Emily ended the recording and lay down, feeling a deep sense of peace. She had found her place in the world, her way of contributing, her reason for being. The young woman who once cried hearing she was a disappointment had become an inspiration. And the mother who once spoke those harsh words had learned to be her daughter's biggest cheerleader. It was proof that people can change, relationships can transform, and that sometimes the biggest obstacles become the springboards to the greatest successes. Emily went to sleep that night knowing she had fulfilled her mission, to prove it was possible to follow her own path without losing her family's love, and that criticism could be turned into fuel for growth. Her story had become the story of so many others who dared to dream differently and worked hard to turn those dreams into reality. And it had all started with a painful conversation overheard by chance on an ordinary afternoon 10 years ago. End of story. Now tell us, what did you think of Emily's journey? Have you ever been in a similar situation where you had to prove yourself to people who doubted you? Share your thoughts in the comments about how Emily handled the situation and whether you would have made the same choices. We'd love to read your reflections. Thank you so much for joining us in this story of triumph. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other inspiring stories about people who turn challenges into victories.